Hi, Tracy Hugelmeyer here from VintagepreneurUniversity.com, where I help vintage sellers start, grow, and scale their business on Etsy. I also own my own vintage business, Rustic Guide, that I've had on Etsy since 2013. And today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite things, and that is the power of making checklists. I use checklists every day in my business and also in my personal life, but I'm going to focus on how you can use checklists to help your effectiveness and your efficiency in your vintage business. Sometimes when you're looking at, how can I improve the growth of my business? How can I improve my success? You look at those direct things like working on your search engine optimization or promoting your shop, things like that. But there are a lot of indirect things that you may not spend as much time thinking about that are all going into your overall success as well. Things like, taking care of yourself and remembering your why you're doing this, kind of going back to your roots. And one of those things I believe are, keeping yourself from getting overwhelmed, and checklists are a great way to do that. So let's talk about some of the benefits of keeping checklists, and then I'm going to tell you some of my, how I go about keeping checklists for my business. So like I said earlier, it keeps your overwhelm at a minimum, lower than maybe if you didn't use checklists, because once you break down your tasks and put them onto a checklist, it kind of clears that stress of having to remember to do it or, to think of when you're going to do it. Because when you're making checklists, you can schedule it out for a particular day. So I know I have to list 50 things by the end of the week. Well, I can break it down into, okay, that's 10 things a day for 5 days. In my checklist for each of the 5 days, I'm going to list 10 things. And then if I list the 10 things for that day, I've accomplished what I need to for the day. And I'm not stressing about listing 50 things that day. I'm only limiting myself to what I need to accomplish for that day, which alleviates the stress and that overwhelm feeling, because I know I'm going to get to the next 10, the next day, and so forth and so on. And I'm not worried about trying to remember what I have to do, the other days, because I've already kind of broken down my tasks and scheduled them out in that manner. So it's a great way to keep that overwhelm down. And number 2, it breaks things down into manageable chunks. So I know that for any particular day, I have my checklist and I'm going to be working on the things on my checklist. I'm not thinking about a huge project at that point. I'm just thinking about what I need to accomplish on that particular project for that day. So it breaks it down into those manageable chunks, which also helps with keeping you from feeling overwhelmed about whatever project you're working on. The third thing that I love about checklists is it helps you feel accomplished even if you have a lot on your plate. So because you're breaking things into manageable chunks in these checklists, and when you're able to get through your day's tasks, your checklist for the day, you're able to get that feeling of, wow, I accomplished what I was trying to accomplish today. Even though you probably didn't finish your entire project, you finished the part that you set out to finish for that day. And that helps you get that feeling of accomplishment. That's so important to keep you motivated and keep you going. Side note, everybody, I would venture to say, who is running a vintage business hits those points where they feel overwhelmed, they want to give up. I want you to know, if you've felt that way, or even if you feel that way right now, that it's perfectly normal. But it's your job to have tools that you can use to push through those moments. And one of those tools for you, I'm recommending right now, is going to be checklists. So what's the final reason that I love using checklists? Once you're able to get rid of that overwhelm, at least at some level, and keep yourself organized, it clears up all kinds of space for creating. And you are a creator. Whether you look at yourself that way or not, when you have a vintage business, when you're an entrepreneur, you're a creator. You're always going to be creating things for your business, whether it's, having a promotion or what it is you're going to be selling. That's your creative mind I don't know why I did a crazy face there, or crazy sign. That's your creative mind, the creative side of you that's coming out. Not everybody has those talents and abilities to make it all work. You do as a vintage seller because you have that creative mind. So when you're able to, like I said, get rid of that overwhelm, one of the ways you can do that by making checklists, you can clear up that space to create and do what it is that you're awesome at. So how do I use checklists? I already kind of mentioned that I schedule out my week, sometimes in advance, depending on what it is, how long the project is. So if I know I'm working on a project that's going to take me a month's time, I can go through and schedule out my tasks for a particular day over those 4 weeks. And that works really, really well for me. I use an app called Do Week, and I believe it's a small fee for that app, but totally worth it. I think it's like $2 or something. Highly recommend it. I also did a video on some of my free apps. I'm going to link to that for you. Do Week is one of them. But I think that the other apps that I mentioned kind of all go along with this concept of keeping yourself organized and having checklists and keeping that overwhelm down. So I'm going to link to that for you. You can check that out in the notes. But what I love about Do Week as well is you can schedule out like recurring tasks. So, and it's in a checklist form. Whenever you put something on your list for the day, if it's something that you have to do every week, for example, every week on Monday, I need to do X. So you can put that task on Monday and then have it repeat every week so that when you complete it for the week that it's scheduled, then the next week it'll pop up on your checklist for you to do the next week as well. But my favorite part is the format. It took me a long time to find an app that I really loved for keeping lists, and this is that. And it basically shows you a week format at a time. So you're looking at your week's worth of checklists, and then you can just kind of flip through to the next week, your next week or the previous week, whatever it is you need to look at. But even though that is the best tool for me, you might find that the best way for you to keep checklists is in a notebook. Some people really like having notebooks. I use notebooks too for other reasons. Sometimes it's even checklists. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. If I have something that I just need to get through for the day, I might jot myself down, if I have my notebook out, whatever it is. My point is you might find a better method that works for you for checklists, but as long as you're using checklists, you're going to have all the things that I talked about covered. So give it a try. If you want to check out the free tips and resources that I have just for you as my YouTube listener, you can go to vintagepreneuruniversity.com/secret. I'll link to that below for you in the notes as well. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and click the little bell as well so that you get notified whenever a new video comes out. And thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.